Hi, I want to talk to you today about a woman who was a top performer in life. In love, in career, at her job, she was the top of the chart. She did all of the things that you would expect a top performer to do. In sales, at her job, raised over $100 million in revenue. In life, a mother, 2 kids, and on the side had a successful hustle doing grant consulting with working with minority colleges and managing her husband's career, producing CDs, going to South by Southwest, just a full, fun, and active life, being of service and full of happiness. And then she ran into trouble. Divorce. Almost 20 years of marriage ends and she becomes a single mom. Then turmoil. She has a trouble with her ex and they can't make it work. Their house goes to foreclosure. Wow, trouble, turmoil. I was in really bad shape. I was that top performer who at that point began to go down at work. 10 million in revenue, 5 million in revenue, 3 million in revenue. Things were impacting me from all sides. So I said, I've got to figure out how to get happier after this. And I became a proponent of positivity. I learned all about the science of happiness. I even wrote a book about living happier after divorce that was forwarded by one of the top relationship therapists in America. But then I had a huge transition when I went to work one day and they said, we're getting acquired. A few months later, they're doing a RIF. You know how it is, reorganization, reduction in force. I had that meeting on my calendar with my manager. All of the other team members had that meeting as well. We figured we're gone. I go home the night before the meeting and I crunch all the numbers and I say, you know what? If my severance package is this, I can make this happen. Maybe this is a way for me to live happier after this transition. But the next day I go to work and all of the other people on the team come out, pick up an empty paper box and begin to take things out of their desks. But when I look at the calendar before my meeting, it's no longer there. I go to my branch manager and say, what's going on? And she tells me, you're not being riffed, you're being retained. And you're going to do your job and the job of the other 3 people on the team who have been riffed. I immediately began to cry. I didn't know what to do. How was I going to handle a transition like this? I wasn't ready for it. And for the next couple of weeks, every time I went to the office and pulled in that garage, I began to cry. But after a couple of months, I realized I can't leave this job. My FICO's sub 400 with the foreclosure. I have to figure out how to make this work. So I decided to use those same tools I used to get through that trouble and that turmoil to face this transition. So I looked and found out, how do people who are the big researchers use these tools at work? And they were using them with CEOs and the leaders of the company. But how do people like me, the ones who actually generate the revenue, the people who process the orders, the people who manage the programs, how do we get through that kind of transition? So I found that the 4 tools that were most helpful to me in getting through that trouble and that turmoil were also good for this transition. And those are the things I want to share here with you. The first one is about managing your thoughts. Now, I call it having the courage to manage your mind, because people who are afraid, people who deal with fear, people who find that stress trips them out, they aren't courageous enough to do this. But the people who are able to manage their thoughts, man, they get an increase in productivity. The researchers have shown up to 37%. It increases the teamwork at your job. And let me tell you, I know it's true, because in the last 2 years, I brought in over $10 million in brand new revenue. And why is this? Well, when your brain is positive, not negative, not neutral, not stressed, it can do so much more. It brings you better revenue, better outcomes, and better service because your brain believes that your behavior matters. So the 4 tools I'm going to share with you today are proven to work. But I want to say, most people say, you know, how long does it take to get this new habit? Well, some people say 21 days. For me, it takes a couple of months. We're going to work on this together. Ready? Let's get started.